I just got back from the cinema after watching the new horror movie Passenger. This is going to be my first thoughts review and of course entirely spoiler free. So getting into a quick plot summary of the movie, a couple driving down a remote road witness a car crash, but when they pull over and try to assist, they unwillingly put themselves into more danger as something begins hunting them and follows them along their journey. So with this movie we got a supernatural road horror, which those two subgenres, it's not like they've never blended together before. We've actually got a nice solid amount of supernatural road horror movies to pick from, but it was just not on my bingo card to get one of these movies in 2026. Going into this movie, I actually didn't know too much about it. I kind of just knew the basic gimmick of it, but I didn't know if it was a creature feature or a supernatural movie, so I was pleasantly surprised with what we got, even though I definitely would have been down for a creature feature. But after understanding what I was getting, it was more coming down to, okay, how well does it execute with what it's going for? Okay, so I'm going to open by saying majority of this movie for myself was moments in patches, and what I mean by that is there's moments of some really cool tension being built, or some really cool scares, or some lore and backstory being created for the film. However, it was the moments in between that were kind of taking me out of the movie, and to be perfectly honest with you, I can't really pinpoint exactly what about these moments were taking me out of it. I just felt like it was sort of halting the momentum, and just something about it wasn't really clicking with me. But I will say, it's not the entirety of the film. There is a point in the movie where you get the best understanding of the lore and backstory that is given to you, and majority of the characters start to get on the same page about what's going on, and from that point on it does become more enjoyable and at least more consistent, which is definitely a highlight from then on. And another thing that I'll definitely highlight is, admittedly, there were some really creepy moments in this movie and some well-earned scares. I feel like recently we've had a streak of some well-earned genuine scares in the horror movies that we've been given, and by all means I don't think this movie sets itself right at the top of the list in terms of scares and, you know, being one of the scariest movies of 2026, but I did have fun with the scares that it did deliver. Now, like I said before, I feel like the movie does get better as it goes, especially once it hits a certain point in the movie. It kind of finds its niche, but I will say the ending was definitely anticlimactic and definitely was underwhelming for not only the ending that I think they were going for, but the ending that I also think they kind of deserved. However, another major problem with this movie for myself is I feel like it gets caught between being two different things. You know, a standard cursed demon movie where something's hunting you down, obviously with the twist of being on the road, and something that is far cooler with like some deep lore, backstory, and things like that going on. Because when you go into the lore and backstory of this movie, it all really is interesting. However, it's also balanced out with a lot of tropes and cliches and things like that, and it's kind of like, okay, what kind of movie does this actually want to be? However, I think the movie's perfectly fine. It's watchable. I think it will please most audiences. I do think that maybe my standards are just too high because we've come off two absolute bangers in a row. However, Passengers, I wouldn't have a problem coming back to this one in the future. I just feel like something's missing there for myself.